We call to order the April 6th meeting of Morristown City Council and welcome those who are in attendance today. We'll begin with our invocation and pledge led by Councilmember Al Aker.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve our community and serve you, Lord. Lord, we ask you to bless our efforts, Lord, and we ask your continued blessing on our community, Lord. We love you and we thank you for your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, several have asked, and I guess as the mask mandate has come off, and I think we've all had our shots. If you're speaking, we've had complaints of muffled voices from behind the mask, so when speaking, if you want to remove the mask, I think we'd be okay with that from up here. And of course, those who come to the speaker have already removed their mask in the past. So as we ease our way back into this, let's see how this works. Let's check in, everybody, please. I think my microphone might be a little hot, whoever's regulating that. And we have everybody present. Okay. We have before us the minutes of the March 16th meeting. If there are no changes to those minutes, I'd entertain a motion they be approved as written.
Move for approval.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those minutes are approved. We have a special guest here that our field rep from our Congresswoman Diana Harshbarger, Darrell Brady, is here. Darrell is asked to address the council briefly, so Darrell, come up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight. First of all, let me say thank you for your public service to our community. I know it is a sacrifice for you from your family and your other work obligations, so thank you for what you do. I've served on the board of mayor and alderman before for 7 years, and I know what it means to go down and get a jug of milk and come back an hour later after you've explained some policy issues. But thank you for your public service. It's my pleasure to tell you tonight that Congresswoman Diana Harshbarger will maintain an office here in Morristown. So currently we're waiting on some leased space. We're finalizing a lease and we'll be having an office on East Morris Boulevard, and we'll keep you informed of that and let you know when we get in. I think we're supposed to move in the office around June 1. Right now we're currently working out of our homes, and I've moved over to the position of Director Outreach, but I want to recognize someone who's joined our team tonight. I want to recognize Patty Mills. Patty, if you'd stand up, please. Patty is going to be one of our field reps, and Hamlin County is going to be one of her areas, and so we are dedicated here. We will also have a caseworker here in Morristown, Andy Jarnigan, who covers all of our veteran affairs issues. And so if you know of anyone who needs any assistance with federal agencies like Social Security or veterans issues or disability or anything like that, please reach out to us. My card is going to be available. And of course, you can always call our Kingsport office as well. But again, we're honored to be here, and Congresswoman Harshbarger sends her regards, and she's been in Morristown frequently. Matter of fact, I think she'll be back again this Friday. We're touring one of our local industries. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Darrell, and we appreciate you and your work as well. Patty, welcome.
Thank you.
We open the floor now for comments from the public about items that are on our agenda today. Again, as you come to address your concerns, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please introduce yourself by name and address, and the floor is now open.
Are you sure?
The indication, we do have someone coming, okay.
Mr. Suzulo would like to know if the landscaping coordinator comments is on the agenda.
It is on the agenda, yes.
Okay.
My name is Tony Strazulo, 609 East Louise Avenue. So I'm here to talk about the landscaping ordinance change. Spoke about this 2 weeks ago, and at the end of the conversation, just like most of them, when I'm gone, y'all decide to have a discussion. That discussion that you had was in regards to the spacing of these plants, and that 10 feet or so should be sufficient. There is not one tree listed in this entire ordinance that has any type of mature diameter of less than 20 feet. How can you plant 2 trees 10 feet apart from each other when their canopies are going to be growing into each other? If you're going to write this ordinance and make these recommendations, recommend the appropriate spacage of these plantings. Your concern was for the shrubs, for hedges, how to get them to have sufficient blockage quickly. Well, the way to do that is to do 2 rows of hedges in a V shape. That way, in a couple of years, you can remove one of those rows and allow the rest of them to thrive to be full mature trees or shrubs. That's how you end up doing it. You don't just throw a bunch of stuff together and hope they survive. Okay, these are living things we're talking about. You're making this ordinance, this is the time to make these changes. We have to have something on here that says how far apart plants are supposed to be planted. Whether or not you do that just in general, or you do it by the size of their canopy when they're going to be mature. You're not going to put 2 oak trees that are going to get 65 feet in width 10 feet apart from each other. That, you have to know that that's not the way it's supposed to be done. You have to consider these things for the long term, not what you're going to get the first week that it's planted. You have to think about that. This board needs to reconsider how they're implementing these things and take all aspects of it into consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Zula, I made an error. You're done, but this is on a public hearing, and your comments would have normally come during the public hearing, so we'll take those comments and plug them into the public hearing session.
That's why I asked her.
I had you come up a bit early. That was my error. Nothing you did wrong. I did the wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Nobody else? Okay. We'll close this portion of the citizen comment section, and we'll move to the public hearings, and we have several of those today. The first of which is the public hearing on the adoption for a plan of services, this being Resolution 2221. The resolution to adopt a plan of services for the annexation of a portion of Hamlin County tax parcel 025-15915-000, the southwest corner of the said parcel being located about 350 feet north of Clinchview Drive, following the eastern right-of-way line of North Davy Crockett Highway. Lori?
Yes,
this
sir.
public hearing is now open.
Yes, sir. This plan of services for this annexation is standard for the city, with Morristown Utilities providing all utilities. However, the applicant has requested the property be brought into the city with the zoning designation of intermediate business. The intent of the owner is to develop the land commercially.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this particular resolution? Hearing none, are there any questions that the council members have for Lori? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we close this public hearing and the motion be entertained to adopt it.
So moved.
Motion Smith. We have a second. And we have a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. Our second public hearing is ordinance 3678. It's entitled an ordinance to annex a portion of the Hamilton County tax parcel ID, also property 025-15915-000, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Morristown, this on North Davy Crockett Parkway. This public hearing is now open. Lori.
Yes, sir, this annexation goes with the plan of services just voted on. The annexation comes to you from Mr. Roger Porter, representing RCCP LP. They've requested the city annex in full property located off of North Davy Crockett Highway, adjacent to Spring Creek Apartments. The 3.5 acre parcel was only partially annexed in 1995. Roughly 3/4 of an acre, which was left out at that time, is the portion being considered for annexation tonight. And again, the applicant has asked that the plan of services include the property, the zoned intermediate business when brought into the city, should the council vote to approve this annexation. The city council voted in favor of this item being forwarded on for public hearing on March 16th.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Motion Bivens, is there a second? And we have a second. Does the council have any questions on this one? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. The next public hearing is ordinance 3679. It's an ordinance to amend the municipal code to rezone Hamlin County tax parcel ID, again, 02515915000 from R2 to IB. This the same location on North Davy Crockett Parkway. The public hearing is now open.
Yes, sir, Mayor. The aforementioned annexation area is the general location of this rezoning request, which has been submitted by the same property owner, Mr. Roger Porter. That portion of his property already inside the city limits is the area under consideration to be rezoned. Currently zoned residential as R2, Mr. Porter has asked that it be rezoned to intermediate business as was stated before. He has future commercial development plans for his location. As council has just approved his annexation, your granting approval of this rezoning will result in the entire parcel having only one zoning designation, that being intermediate business. And again, the city council voted in favor of this item being forwarded on for a public hearing at their meeting on March 16th.
Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
Move for approval.
Motion center. And we have a second. Any questions of the council? Hearing none, let's vote. There we go. And that motion carries. And we've taken care of lot 02515915000. Next up, public hearing is ordinance number 3680. This is an ordinance to amend the municipal code, rezoning Hamlin County tax parcel ID number that you see there before you, lots 1 through 11. This is 2.073 total acres as shown on the subdivision plat entitled Eagle Ridge. This from light industrial to medium density residential. The public hearing is now open.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Property owner Consolidated Storage has requested that a portion of their property, 1907 Davis Street, be rezoned from light industrial to medium density residential or R2. The properties involved are located at the corner of Davis Street and East Converse Street. The applicant wishes to rezone approximately 2 acres of the property to R2 in order to build single-family housing. And again, the city council voted in favor of this request and voted to forward it on to the public hearing at their meeting on March 16th.
Is there anyone else from the public wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion that it be adopted. Motion Ahern. And we have a second. Any questions of the council on this one?
Yes, Mayor, this is part of a larger development in that area, is that correct?
Well, right now, the entire property consists of a warehouse, but the warehouse is being renovated for future use, and this will be to the north of the warehouse. 11 lots total.
They're all in a row, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am. They were all front East Converse Street.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Are we ready to vote? Let's vote. And that motion carries. Next, public hearing is for ordinance 3681, an ordinance to close and vacate certain rights-of-way within the city on Barnard Avenue, a portion of Stillwell Avenue, and a portion of the unimproved alleyway between Stillwell and Converse. This public hearing is now open.
Yes, sir, Mayor, this request goes hand in hand with the request just heard from property owner Consolidated Storage, who has requested the abandonment of Barnard Avenue and abandonment of a portion of Stillwell Avenue. Neither of these rights-of-ways are used, and they are surrounded by this same owner. Vacating these unused alleys will allow the development, as I mentioned to Ms. Center, of the 11 single-family residential lots.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
Move for adoption.
Motion centered. We have a second. Any questions of the council? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The next public hearing is for ordinance number 3682. This being an ordinance to amend the municipal code of the city of Morristown, Appendix B, to rezone Hamlin County, Tennessee tax parcel, ID number 03204804301, from heavy industrial to high-density residential district, this being on Deering Road and Highway 160. Public hearing is now open.
Yes, this is a request from property owners, as you just noted, to rezone this parcel located at the northeast intersection of Deering Road and Highway 160 from HI to R3, which is our high-density residential district. This parcel is 12 acres in size and is currently vacant. If the rezoning is approved, the owners have stated that they're going to seek to create a single-family residential subdivisions, and they currently provide staff with a concept plan consisting of approximately 40 lots. Highway 160 is to the south, Performance Food is to the west, single-family residential unit and cemeteries to the north, and single-family residential units and the Living Promise Lutheran Church is to the east across Deering Road. And I will note that prior to any development on this site, the developer will have to submit a site plan that meets all city requirements. Planning Commission did vote in support of this request by an 8-0 vote at their March meeting, and staff also supports this request.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance. Motion Bivens, and we have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And the motion carries. The next public hearing is for ordinance 3683. It's an ordinance of the city of Morristown amending Title 14 of the Zoning and Land Use Control, Chapter 33, for landscape buffers and screening of the Morristown Municipal Code. Public hearing is now open.
This is a staff-initiated text amendment, as you just noted, Chapter 33 of the zoning ordinance. And planning staff was heavily assisted by the city horticulturist Mike Hupp in going through this ordinance and making the proposed changes. The major change being proposed is updating the recommended species of trees, shrubs, and ground covers. Staff is proposing to remove some trees based on disease, plant availability, being non-native, and in turn adding other trees to this list. This updated list is one that will help the community by having trees and other landscape that's native to our region, not subject to disease, and provide a diversity of trees. Then some other minor changes include providing a correct definition of caliper, removing plastic and adding pine as components to the definition of mulch, and adjusting the minimum tree height at planting to match a minimum caliper required in evergreen trees, while also adding language to specify the correct location. Well, yeah, I'm going too far here. Staff recommends approval, and Planning Commission did vote to support this request at their March meeting, also by an 8-0 vote.
We've already had input in one public hearing form. With the exception of that, is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion that this ordinance be adopted.
Move for approval.
Motion centered. Do we have a second? And we do have a second. Under the questions, there were some recommendations and comments made. Or you remain comfortable with the language?
I know there's City horticulturist did look through this, and he did not recommend any changes. We do provide a minimum of 15 feet between canopy trees. That's a minimum, and 10 feet between evergreen trees.
Okay. Any other questions by council members?
Mayor, I appreciate your making that comment. Could we just ask, though, that they review it again?
Yeah, I'll definitely get the city's horticulturist if we need to tweak it as we move forward.
Any other comments? Are we ready to vote? Let's vote. And the motion carries. And our final public hearing of the day is ordinance number 3684, the ordinance of the City Council that amends Title 8, Chapter 2, Section 211 of the Municipal Code as it applies to our beer ordinance. The public hearing is now open.
Mayor, you will recall we've had this ordinance developed by the city attorney at the request of Morristown Police Department. It incorporates by reference certain state statutes with the intent of making the ordinance more enforceable and more effective. It did pass on first reading. We recommend adoption.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing and will entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance. Motion Bivens. Do we have a second? And we do have a second. Any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. We move on to introduction on first reading of ordinance, this being ordinance 3685. And it's the ordinance of the City Council of Morristown amending Title 10 of the Municipal Code under animal control.
With the move to contract with Hamilton County rather than the Humane Society for Animal Control Services, we needed to make some adjustments to the ordinance. That's what's before you today. They're mostly definitions. It has been the topic of a workshop previously. We would recommend approval.
Is there a motion we adopt that recommendation?
Move for approval.
Motion is centered. And we have a second. Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries, and the ordinance is passed on first reading. We'll set it for public hearing on April the 20th. We have a number of bids and contracts to award, the first of which is the approval of the County Inmate Usage 2021 agreement between the City of Morristown and the Hamilton County for pertaining to the litter crew.
This is an amendment to the existing contract we have with Hamilton County to utilize inmates on the city litter crew. Chief Overholt has been working with the county to make these modifications. Basically, it adjusts the requirements that are required of the crew supervisor who oversees the litter crew. It allows the position to be more easily filled. Hamilton County has approved the changes to the resolution. It comes to you as a recommendation from Chief Overholt and staff.
Is there a motion that we approve this one? Motion Bivens, is there a second? And we have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. Next is the approval of the proposal from Morristown Shredder, Inc., doing business as Morristown Iron and Metals, to provide recycle services for surplus vehicles. The city will be paid 8 cents per pound of metal.
This is another step in our effort to vacate the Roy Widener site. These vehicles were previously used as boneyards for spare parts for repairs, largely of our police department fleet. The vehicles are no longer roadworthy, cannot be restored to roadworthiness. Time, weather, and use of components have made them no longer viable to be street worthy. Based on that, we solicited bids for salvage of the materials. We did receive a bid, as you indicated, for 8 cents a pound. They will come to the site and remove them. We do not have to deliver the materials. Based on that, we think it's a good deal. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion for this recommendation?
So moved.
Motion Ahern. And we have a second. Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, let's vote. And the motion carries. Next is the approval to accept the best and lowest bid from Neely Cobble Company for 2021 landscaping flatbed dump truck, the amount $57,885.
This is a budgeted piece of equipment planned for in your adopted budget. It is for the landscaping crew, allow us to better meet the needs of the crew out in the field. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion to accept that recommendation? Motion Bivens, and we have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote.
Did it not work?
And the motion carries. Next, the approval of a recommendation from Burwell Construction and the Sports Facilities Companies to accept the best and lowest bid for mobile fixture for food service equipment at Morristown Landing. This in the amount of $223,914.03.
This food service equipment will be used at Morristown Landing, as you indicated. It is part of the design package that we approved moving forward. It provides for both the catering kitchen and the cafe snack bar. The amount was included in the project budget and will be paid for from bond proceeds from the project. As you indicated, the recommendation comes from Burwell, the construction manager, as well as SFM, the one who will be operating the facility. They both agree that this will meet our needs and is an appropriate bid. We would recommend approval.
Is there a motion to accept that recommendation? Motion Pettigo. And we have a second. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Mayor, it's just a transposed figure. That should, instead of 223, it should be 226 according to the supporting documentation. 226,933.82. The other, so I guess we need to amend that motion to make it correct with the supporting documentation.
What is the correct number?
The correct number is 226, 933.82.
The recommendation letter has it at $223,914.03.
Okay, the letter I have has all 6 bidders in it.
Joey, can you explain the difference in the recommendation?
And the reason I ask is that I had hoped that we could do, not that's another comment is, I'd hoped that we could do it locally with KTOM because they are local, rather local, but I see that their bid is much higher than what we're looking at now.
The bid for submitted was the 226 number. Recommendation, however, is for the 223, because upon the evaluation of the bids by the SFC as Burwell, there was a merchandiser that was included that it was not needed. So that's the reason for the 223 and reduction from the 226 to the 223.
So you have an updated letter from what we have.
It's in the letter, within the first paragraph, the recommendation in the lump sum amount of 223,914.03.
I just went to where all the figures were in one line. It looked like-
Yeah, if you go below the 6 bidders, the next paragraph describes the excluded item.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions or comments? Are we ready to vote on the original motion, on the motion? Let's vote. That motion carries. Next is the approval of Bridge Pay Service Agreement for Gateway Services for credit card processing. This for the Parks and Rec software.
We've been working, trying to change our processes in the light of COVID and the demand for more online services. Parks and Rec has stepped forward a great deal this year with implementation of new software, allowing for reservation online and accepting of credit card payments. This is part of that ongoing upgrade. It is a component of the software we would recommend.
Is there a motion to accept that recommendation? Motion to Ahern. And we do have a second. Any questions or comments?
Will there be a service fee attached to that for the individual who uses this? When they use their credit card?
This is the cost to us for processing. I'm not certain of the
next step.
the end user.
Any other questions? So we don't know if Parks and Rec going to eat a service charge. Most businesses have to do that when they use credit cards. Is it? Do you know, Greg?
We do. It's a $2.50 charge for the current system we have, but this is going to upgrade it.
So you absorb that now?
No, we charge
You
it,
charge
pass
it.
it on, yes.
Pass the cost on.
I thought
Okay.
we do that with taxes, I think, as well.
Any other questions? We ready to vote? Let's vote. That motion carries. Next is the approval to declare vehicle number 334, a 2019 Dodge Charger, as surplus due to water damage and accept the total loss insurance payment of $24,500 for the vehicle, the 2019 Dodge Charger, the VIN number you see there before you.
This vehicle was damaged and has been a long-standing issue trying to get things resolved. We finally reached an acceptable settlement. There's been a lot of time and effort put in by the finance department, by the city attorney, and by the police department. I can tell you that everyone would be very happy to see this issue put to rest, and we recommend approval.
Is there a motion to accept this recommendation?
So moved.
Motion Ahern. Do we have a second? We do have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. Next is the approval to declare vehicle number 56, a 2006 Ford Crown Vic, as surplus and to dispose of properly via online auction via the site Gov Deals.
This is a hand-me-down of a hand-me-down of vehicles that's currently used in the engineering department. It is more than served its useful life. The shop has recommended we surplus it. That's the reason it's before you today. We recommend approval.
Is there a motion to accept this recommendation? Motion Bivens. And we need a second. Got a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries as well. Next is the approval of the change order for glass machinery, increasing the contract $49,957 for East Tennessee Progress Center Site 12, the project funded by Site Development Grant.
This project, as you indicated, is in the East Tennessee Progress Center. Site 12 was a project to make it pad ready for industrial development. It was funded partially by grants from the state and from the Tennessee Valley Authority. This change order is recommended by the construction engineer. We had some unsuitable soils. We had to balance the site. That's the reason for the additional cost. We are complete with the project at this point, with the exception of some small retainage to assure that the site stabilization is fully rooted and the sedimentation is removed from the pond. Based on this, we'd recommend approval.
Do we have a motion to that recommendation?
Move for approval?
Motion Center. And we have a second. We do have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. Next is the approval to purchase a 2022 Kenworth Packmore rear loader sanitation truck, the amount of $167,930. This comes off the state contract.
As council's aware, we're preparing to move this summer to an automated fleet with one driver and an arm that empties the cans. However, there are certain areas in the city that are not able to be served by that vehicle. That is the purpose of this vehicle. It's a replacement vehicle for rear loading garbage collection. It's semi-automated and does require a person on the back. It goes into areas that are simply too tight to be able to serve with the newer fleet. It is a budgeted item. It is in the sanitation fund, paid for by user fees for the garbage service. We would recommend approval.
Is there a motion to this recommendation? Motion Ahern. And we have a second. And we have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And the motion carries. We finally have an approval of the recommendation for LDA Engineering to accept the best and lowest bid from Summers and Taylor in the amount of $109,975 for the Croxdale Road Slope Stabilization Project.
Council will recall we've got a number of miscellaneous smaller stormwater projects. This one was delayed because of problems with getting the easement for the work to be done. It is on East Croxdale Road. LDA is the engineer. They did finally work to get the easement approved. they feel like that this is an appropriate bid, and they would recommend approval.
What's your motion for that recommendation?
So move.
Motion Ahern. We have a second. We do have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries. And finally, we have the approval of the recommendation from LDA Engineering to accept the best and lowest bid from Adams Construction LLC in the amount of $448,750 for the Brights Pike Bridge Replacement Project.
This bridge came up on our list because of an assessment from TDOT that found that it was unsuitable and needed repair. Based on that assessment by TDOT, we were eligible to get state funds, which provide the lion's share of the project. This is a fairly substantial improvement to a fairly small bridge, but it is necessary to move forward and stay in compliance with the state. Brights Pike is certainly an area we need to work on. Adams has got an acceptable bid. We'd recommend approval.
Is there a motion for that recommendation?
Move for approval.
Motion to center. We have a second. We do have a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's vote. And that motion carries as well. And that concludes those links of expenditures. And we will move on to the city administrator's report. Tony?
A few things to report in terms of progress. We are in the construction season of the year. Got a lot of things that have begun. Hopefully you've noticed that on West AJ between Crescent Center and Morris Boulevard, that project is finally underway. That will be complete hopefully by October. It will involve an upgrade of the signal there at Economy. It does include improvement of the sidewalks, making sure they're handicap accessible, and the resurfacing of the street. It is something we're excited about getting moving forward, and I know it's been long awaited. We've been talking for a very long time, and happy to see that the construction's underway. Parallel to that project, TDOT also has a project that will be resurfacing West AJ from the Morris intersection all the way to the county line. So when we get done with the two projects, we'll have a completely revised system from the county line all the way to Morris Boulevard on West AJ, and we'll be very excited to see that come to fruition. If you look to to Cumberland, we've got a couple of stormwater projects that are moving along now. The project, again, long delayed by the railroad in Cumberland, is moving. It moves at a snail's pace because of the involvement of the railroad, but that drainage project is now under construction, and we're actually making some progress. A little further at Fulton Hill Park, you'll note that we've begun this slope stabilization project that where we had slope failure. We're removing the retaining wall, cutting back those slopes. It'll be a terrace slope as you drive along Cumberland, looking up into Fulton Hill Park. So we're very excited to see those construction projects moving forward. I know we've been long awaiting many of them, and we're excited to see them happening. I do want to take a moment, you know we've got a fairly substantial work session, but I had one other issue I needed to bring to the floor today. I'd like to ask Mr. Craig Price to come forward and talk about a grant opportunity he would like to pursue, and let you know a little bit about it and see if you'd like to move forward with that grant application.
Thank you, Tony, and it is a good day to be talking about some good news here. What I'm standing here for is to ask for permission to use a civic park for a special project. Through the Governor's Literacy Program, there's storybook grant trail grants that are available, and we'd like to put one of these down at Civic Park. And it will consist of up to 18 storyboards, marquees in the park along the walking trail. And the Ready by 6 through the HCXL program is going to be administering the grant. The grant's not an actual city grant, but they will be doing it. Other partners are Parks and Recreation, Morristown Library, Housing Authority, AM Rotary Club, and the Hamilton County Board of Education. And the Board of Education's contribution will be their ag mechanics, and the engineering classes will build the marquees for the storyboards. Parks Maintenance will also do the installing of the storyboards along the trail. The grant application that Ready by Six will be applying for will be from $1,000 to $4,000. And this project will enhance not only the Greenway, but the Born Learning Trail at Fred Miller, which will be a complement on the east side of town to go along with our storybook trail on the west side. And then the Boys and Girls Clubs will get the benefit of this as well through the education. And then the coming soon Jolly Park that will be here by the end of the year will also be a benefactor. So there's a whole range of educational and education and recreational opportunities there for someone, for one-stop visit to get educated and enjoy the walking trails and all the new things that are building. So we're asking for permission to use Civic Park. That's our obligation, and this is allowing this to go at Civic Park. Any questions?
This isn't on for a formal vote, so I guess you're looking for a nod of the head.
And like right now, the city has no money in it. Only money will.
Sounds like a really nice idea, and HCXL is always coming up with good ideas to enhance educational opportunities. So I would say amen to this one.
Yeah.
Everybody good?
We just need to make sure that there's consensus of the group and there's no objection.
I would just like to say, I have gone through a park like this in Canada, and they are really neat, where they take the, do the storyboards throughout the park. My question is, how much of the ground space will this take up?
Well, it's going to be along the trail, and we're going to make sure that we do it in a fashion for maintenance, so we don't have to weed eat and all this stuff. So we'll be putting either mulch or shack gravel down around it, and so that way we can mow around it. And so we look forward to bringing this to the citizens.
Well, two other groups that'll benefit are the Boys and Girls Club and Girls Inc. as well.
Yes.
Which are right there in that vicinity.
And even the TCAT, it'll fill in there as more people use it, and as those students go out and enjoy the walking trail in the future too, it'll be a win-win. Anything else?
Express our appreciation to HCXL.
Yes.
Mayor, I think we ought to take an opportunity to thank Craig Price for all the work he does for the city and coming up with ideas like this, supporting ideas like this. He's a great Parks and Rec director, and we're lucky to have him.
And pulling that many people together to partner in it too.
The only other thing I have is housekeeping items, just to remind the audience and of course council that we do have a beer board agenda we'll hear immediately following the regular council meeting. And then after that, we do have a number of work session items we will need to cover. There will be 3 items there on work session. So we've got, even though we're getting to the end of the agenda for the regular session, we do have additional work to do.
And did you want to mention the work session next Thursday?
Oh, I was going to do that during the work session itself.
Okay.
We are planning to have a work session on the 15th at 9 o'clock.
Okay. Prior to council meeting, the Finance Committee met this afternoon. Vice Mayor Pettigo chairs that. Would you like to make a report on that meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee met today. All members were present. We discussed the 2021-2022 nonprofit contributions. We discussed fund balance and spending policies, and those things will be brought up before the council probably in the next meeting of the fall.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. We now open the floor for comments from anyone in the audience or across the room who would like to comment on items you believe need to come before the council. Again, introduce yourself, as name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. This is not a question-answer session, as comments from mayor and council will follow this section of the agenda. And the floor is now open.
My name is Tony Strazulo, 609 East Louise Avenue. I'm here to talk about a couple of issues. It seems like every time I come up here and speak to this board, as soon as I leave this room, there's comments made. Just last week, or 2 weeks ago, Mayor, you had made a comment in regards to that religious group that was here that was banned from the farmers market, that they didn't have their credentials. They do have all their credentials in line. They are certified to do what they do. Just because they're not a brick and mortar place does not mean that these people haven't gone through the proper steps and the phases in order to do what they do. That was very disrespectful. The other thing I want to talk about that was also mentioned 2 weeks ago after my conversation in regards to the landscape ordinance is a tree board. That the city of Morristown is Tree City USA certified. What do you do? That's the most minimal things that you could do. The 4 things that you commented on. Have a tree board. I went there 10 years ago. They didn't want to do nothing. They didn't want to help out anything with the trees. If we were all with the trees and the agriculturalists or whoever's on the board, we shouldn't be topping trees anywhere. Schools shouldn't be having it done. Public places shouldn't be having it done. And we should stop professionals that are out there topping these trees. It's ridiculous. Just because you have a tree board doesn't mean nothing. It means you got to sign. You got to step it up. Don't just do the minimal. Exceed. Okay? Do a little bit more for the community. Don't just do the bare. Another thing I wanted to talk about that was mentioned is about the Public Works Director. You had mentioned he's a longtime friend, Tony. And so you're going to go ahead and he knows what he's doing and he's a good guy and he's very professional. Well, I made a records request. I wanted to know how much records there was for the snow and ice melt service that they provided on a particular day. I got a response back that there was no records taken. But there was service provided because I have pictures of it on my own street. Okay? The county never went out because the pavement wasn't hot enough, wasn't cold enough, and there wasn't enough snow. But the city went out, but there's no records of it. So the records need to be handled. And just because I come back here and make a comment doesn't mean that everybody needs to try to protect them like they're trying to seem like their superhero is the best out of the group. Take those comments to heart. I got 39 seconds. I want to talk about this new Lakeway Transit that you all have. I took a ride on that last week. It's a good system, but the stop on Hahn Road, or Hahn Drive, by Big Lots, it's right after a bridge. Every driver I spoke to, including the lady that runs that, said that that's a dangerous, dangerous place for that stop. You have to move that quickly. Now that it's on record, if there's any accidents, you all are liable for it.
Thank you, Mr. Suzullo. Who's next?
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. You're showing this meeting over in that other room. It could be shown to the public. You can tape your meetings so easily, and you refuse, and you never address it, you never put it on an agenda, you never vote, you just stonewall. Stop the stonewalling. Go on and vote. Show me you care or you don't care. Show the public you care or you don't care. You sit here and, oh, here's this, little item here, a little item there. We're talking about something for every single person in the city of Morristown. Something that really has minimal, maybe no cost. You have employees that can do this. You have employees that are doing it right now. Very highly paid employees. I've talked to most of you, and it's interesting the things you say, but I want to see what you do. Please tape your meetings. Please be a big city like all the others and the counties across Tennessee, across the nation, that put the people first, and particularly the people who are ill, work, have commitments, are handicapped. Please. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close this portion of the meeting and we'll go to the comments from mayor and council. Council members, the floor is open.
I'd like to
Sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Noe had not signed up to speak, so we have two more actually.
Okay, that's fine, come on, we can reopen. Thank you. We'd ask that you identify yourself by your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Jennifer Clark. I'm one of the homeless here. One, I would like to comment about what Tony Zulu said about this religious group. They do a very good job. They don't ask the homeless or anybody for money to feed the homeless. They're out, they're giving out, making food at their houses, giving food out. So us homeless will feed, will be able to eat supper. Daily bread, they only feed Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Sundays, they don't feed. But my church, Immigration, Sunday nights, 5 to 7, they feed. They don't ask for money. All they ask is, come as you are. This religious group, come as you are, get a good hot meal. Us homeless is out here struggling. We're not out here by choice. I don't know what else to say to get people to realize. All I say is, you guys have a home. You guys have electricity, heat, running water, a roof over your heads. You guys got cars. Us homeless is out here struggling not by choice. We're not out here because we want to be. We're out here for a reason. We're not here. We don't go up to people, oh, can you get me this? Can you get me that? Yeah, there's people that would stop me and my fiance walking down South Cumberland. Here's $5, here's $10. Go get yourself something hot to eat or drink. I know Lieutenant Hinkle. He does a good job. And congratulations on his promotion. But what I would like to see is someone, before someone, like in the Bible, one of the commandments, shall not judge thy neighbor. I say, if you don't want to be judged, don't judge other people. Put yourselves in us homeless people's shoes. See how hard it is. I'm wondering, where are we going to eat? Where are we going to take our showers? Where are we going to do laundry? This warming station, Mayor Chudley, that you said, I know who's opening it up. I know who's going to be running it. It's my pastor. My pastor even said, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Who's next? We have one more to speak. Sir, we ask you to introduce yourself by your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Paul Shortino, 510 Hedgett Street, and pretty much, the same thing Tony and my fiance had said, supposedly there's this warming station that's gonna open up, but we haven't seen it. There's places that we've seen personally, like the Java Garden in Oasis, that is now up for sale. Why is these places being put up for sale when, we could easily open them up and put put Java Garden, use it for, like, somewhere for the homeless to go get coffee or be warm, when it's cold outside. Or, hot days, somewhere where we can go in the AC so we're not sweating and out here having heat strokes. I'm pretty sure if you guys had family members, that were homeless, you guys would be like, hey, come and stay here. My family don't give two craps about me. They don't care if I die. But, you know, I don't wanna die from heat stroke. I don't wanna die from anything. And, you know, something needs to be done to help us. You know, it's just, this and that's getting done, the jail's getting built, hospital sitting there still. You know, it just seems like it's an excuse to not have service. And that turns you away. Or if you do something bad, they kick you out, supposedly kick you out, and then you gotta wait a year to go back in. Why not open another homeless shelter? Warming station, something where we can go, where we feel safe. Because out here on the streets, I'll be honest with you, there's some days I don't feel like I'm safe. I feel like some days we ride our bikes and we almost get hit every day. Doing what we're supposed to be doing. Riding on the side of the roads. Like we're told by the officers. We get hit, almost get hit. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, we'll close this portion of the meeting, and our council members that have items they wish to bring up.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Linda Noy and Ms. Clark and this gentleman for their demeanor and how they presented themselves to the council. I don't actually appreciate someone coming up to the council and using it as a forum to degrade and yell and scream and whatever to talk to the council like some people have tonight. I don't appreciate it. I hope the rest of the council feels the same way.
Mayor, I'd like to, KAB is going to host on April the 23rd, their annual breakfast at Public Works. It'll be 7 o'clock for our sanitation workers. This is their annual breakfast. They didn't get to have it last year,
What
though.
day is it?
It's a Friday, April 23rd.
Who's having that?
This is KAB. You know, they used to do it with McDonald's. I'm not sure. I think they may be doing it. I don't know who they'll be doing it with this year. But all council, everyone is invited. Do you know you're having a party, Paul? Okay. 7 o'clock, correct? Paul's cooking.
Uh-oh. There goes the crowd. That's it?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Council members, we're reminded we're going to adjourn and reconvene almost immediately as the beer board. And if there are no other items to come before the council, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. And we are now in session as the beer board. Paul's, Satina, and Cindy can scramble to get the board set up.